Yeah. really.
Like a chin situation.
They don't allow him to have all of his heat in his personality. So we're gonna get like either.
All right, so July 22nd. Oh wait, sorry. If the folks moderating online will unmute us, and if we're recording the meeting, hit record. Okay. So we'll call the July 22nd County of San Mateo Housing and Community Development Committee meeting order for Affordable Housing Fund 14 Notice of Funding Availability Study Session. And I'll do a quick roll call. So our chair, Donna Colson, is at jury duty, so she's absent. Member Escobar, here. Member Hedges.
Here.
Member Horst. Yeah. Member Lee. She's online. She's on, yes.
She's online.
She's on there.
I'm on here.
You online, Monica. Great. Member Manalo. Member Moreno. Here. Member Motu.
Here.
Member Saman. I am here. Member Scoble. I'm here. Member Tsai. Is Annie? No. And member Lancaster.
No.
All right. And now I'd like to invite the county staff to introduce themselves if they'd like to. You want to start, Jan?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jan Stokely, HCD supervisor.
Good afternoon. My name is Rocio Nalda, HCD specialist.
I'm Rose Kate. I'm the Chief Deputy Director for the department.
I'm Ray Hodges. I'm the Director for the department.
Doug Frederick, Housing Program Manager.
Karen Kopic, Supervisor of the department.
Stephen Buzza, HCD Specialist. Derek Chow, HCD Specialist.
Helen Tagishikawa, Senior Policy Analyst.
Gina Russell, Management Analyst.
Manasa Hegde, HCD Specialist.
Elazar Mulavaran, HCD Specialist.
Jorge Quesada, HCD Specialist.
Yesenia Jimenez, HCD Specialist.
Hello, Alejandro Segura, Housing and Community Development Specialist.
Vidisha, Office Specialist.
Marissa Santander, Office Specialist.
My name is Athena, HCD. Fantastic. All right, and now I think we'll need to take public comment. Are there any public comments online? Nobody has their hand raised. Is there anyone in attendance in person to make public comment? Is it appropriate to say if there is a public comment on the actual study session item, we could take it then? If somebody's just late to join, or just say, speak now or forever hold your peace?
I think it's.
So this is for anything not on the agenda. Oh, if they have something to comment on.
On the agenda item? We'll
Isn't
take it.
on the agenda items, they can comment now. If not, if it's for a particular project, they have to make it.
Okay. All right. So we'll move on to the first agenda item, which is state and federal funding environment presentation.
Hi, everyone. As we did last year, we wanted to kick off the study session with some orientation to what's changing with federal and state funding. That has a huge impact on the county affordable housing supply building efforts. And you're probably aware that recently we saw a new federal housing legislation pass. It's called the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. It's hailed as one of the most ambitious pieces of housing legislation in decades. And it is ambitious in its scope. It has a lot of policy improvements and also provides some differences in the funding. Most noteworthy, CDBG program has been amended to allow the use of CDBG funds for new construction affordable housing. In the past, CDBG funds were used for rehab only, and they're now, new construction is now an eligible use. So we're excited to see that. And another change that affects federal funds is that the home program was changed to expand the eligible use of home funds for housing infrastructure. That was quite restricted in the past, and it's more expansive now. So we look to dig into this legislation and understand it better, but wanted to make you aware that those changes affecting federal funding are coming. Next slide. And there's also been a lot happening at the state level. The recent state budget that was adopted for FY 26-27 preserved $500 million in funding for state tax credits. That's the level that it has been at, so that's great. And also provided $200 million to fund the state HCD multifamily housing program, which is their largest program to finance the development of new affordable housing. So we were happy that at the last minute, the budget included funding for those two items. The other thing that's been happening at the state is development of a new way of awarding state funds through new systems and committees. So we now have a state level housing department called the California Housing and Homelessness Agency. And within that, ACD will remain a sub-program to administer a number of existing state-funded programs. But developer-facing funding programs from the state will be overseen by a new committee called the Housing Development and Finance Committee. And that committee is going to coordinate state funding so that developers can apply through a coordinated application for multiple funding sources, including some of the federal tax credits and bonds. So that's a big change that's coming. And of course, we don't, in this initial year, there's not a lot of new funding. And there have been indications from the Housing and Development Finance Committee that the MHP funding would be targeted to projects that are already in the state pipeline. And I just bring this to your attention because it affects our thinking about some of the projects and whether they would be better deferred for county funding or could be deferred to a later year. So lots of changes there. And one other item that we talked about last time is that there was an increase in how the state's calculation of its federal bond allocation occurred. So we saw pretty much doubling of our federal housing bond allocations for the 4% tax credit program. And we saw that immediately in round 3 of 2026 tax credits with a much larger number of awards of projects for 4% tax credits and bonds. So that is, we're beginning to see that play out. And one consequence that we need to be mindful of is we're seeing a softening of the market for tax credits because there's been, a big increase in awarded projects that were awarded tax credits. So we're seeing a lowering of the price for tax credits, which directly affects how much county funding or state funding is needed. And I'll just also mention in terms of things that are happening is after our NOFA was awarded, the AMIs for San Mateo County were released for 2026. And we saw an almost 9% increase in the AMIs. What that means is more people are likely to slip into homelessness, but it also means for developers that their rental revenue stream is higher and they may be able to carry more permanent debt, which could have a positive effect of reducing their need for county funds. We have to see. So upside and downside on that, mostly downside for the people who live here and our renters, but it could affect the need for county funds for projects going forward because they should be able to carry more permanent debt. And then you're probably all aware that there's going to be a housing bond on the ballot in November. The state finances housing through housing bonds, which is great, but it has the stop and start effect. So we're exhausting all the bonds from the last housing bond initiative. And now we're in that interim period while we wait and hope for new bonds to be passed. If they're passed, it would include $5.1 billion in state funding for the MHP program, which again is the state's largest means to fund new affordable housing in addition to tax credits. So that's coming and should have a really positive effect on supply building efforts if the bonds pass. The other big change is there's a state program called the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Program, and some of the projects that you'll hear about later today rely on that funding. That program's being restructured so that the housing side of the program will be administered by this new committee called HDFC, Housing Development and Finance Committee. So that's contributing to that streamlining. But on a more concerning note is that at the end of June, the legislature was still undecided about some critical funding issues for ASIC. And so we still don't know the funding level for affordable housing for ASIC in the years coming forward. So we're watching that and hoping that it's resolved with a healthy amount of ASIC funding for new affordable housing. We don't know. And that also affects how you think about some of the projects in our pipeline. That was it for me. And before I step away, I just want to thank all the staff who've worked so hard. I may not get another chance, but staff have worked really hard to bring you their recommendations today. And really appreciate it. Okay, so Rocio, you're up next.
Yeah.
Sure.
Please. Overall, like, do you consider most of these changes wins or too soon to tell, or like what's sort of the overall?
So it was a win that we did keep some funding in this year's budget. It was a win that the housing bonds are going to be on the ballot. The federal changes are definitely wins. And I think that the coordination of the application and review process in a single, under a single body with similar standards, similar application, like that's going to expedite the development and financing of affordable housing. So lots of wins. And of concern is what's going to happen with the ASIC program. I don't know if anybody, Ray, did you want to comment on that?
No, I agree with everything Dan said too. Excuse me. This was focused on state and federal funding too. We didn't include things that are happening around local funding on here. Of course, many of our city partners have had a more difficult time bringing in fees and whatnot through development over the last few years. So I think we've seen overall a decrease in funding that our city partners are able to allocate to affordable projects over the last couple of years. At the county level, you all are probably familiar with the discussions around the vehicle license fee reimbursements, VLF. So that's ongoing. The county did get a partial fill for this year at $80 million. So did not take a full cut of the 120 million I think we were due. But that discussion is going to take place with the next governor when that person is elected in November. DOH and the work that we do and that we'll review today is not funded by VLF. It's not affected by that. But if the county's VLF were cut in full, our board would be looking across the board for like, my gosh, where can we make up some of these differences? So Measure K, they've already said, would be on the table. So we're not a direct funding source of ours that has ripple effects across the county's budget. So we'll see how those discussions go in the months to come.
If I would offer one other tidbit along the lines of like commercial linkage fees are how local governments are funding affordable housing right now, right? It's the fee paid by commercial developers, and there's very little commercial development happening. And that commercial development that is happening is more industrial than it is office. And in many city fee programs do not include, or at least do not substantially include, commercial linkage fees on industrial, because it's been seen as a very low intensity use. You'll have a huge building with very few workers in it, and so it doesn't drive that demand for a higher fee. But the manufacturing jobs that are coming into the peninsula are very high intensity robotics and require actually a very high density of employees in an industrial space. So that's like something that we're grappling with, is how do we restructure our fee program to capture those linkage fees on industrial product. But it's a problem, because I think most cities are probably gone, 4, 5, 6 years without bringing in a single dollar in commercial linkage fees, and then still needing to fund these projects.
Yeah, I was just especially curious about the creating of a new agency. Having seen that in local, federal, different ways. When I started, I worked a lot with FEMA. FEMA was an independent agency of the federal government, and then it got, when AHF created, is now part of that. There's pros and there's cons, a lot of cons sometimes creating these new. I think FEMA was better off with an independent agency, just my opinion. But anyway, I was just curious if are there growing pains with this new department? I imagine there will be. Yeah. So anyway. But it sounds like HCD is still kind of intact under the new department. So that's hopefully doesn't mean too much disruption.
I think most of our partners in the development world think that the fact that this agency is going to have the ability to line up tax credits with the state funding sources and kind of do some of that matching ahead, so you're not having to do multiple applications and wait extra years and get this award so that I can apply for this award, so I can apply for this award. Just have that all happen at once should be a win, but it's a new agency, new people. So,
Right. So moving on to the AHF 14 overview.
Yeah, we're going to present to you an overview of this year round AHF 14. So these years, you can see in the screen, we received 10 applications requesting a total of $70.3 million. One application did not meet the threshold requirements. So the staff continue reviewing 9 of those 10 applications that were submitted and were received. The 9 applications that met threshold were requested $29.3 million. Sorry, no. The funding that we have available is the $29.3 million. So this amount, compared with the last 2 AHF funding rounds, is less compared to this year. We had less county funding available this year. I'm sorry, this is my first time. So with assistance on financial due diligence from our consultant, Kaiser Marston Associates, staff review each eligible application using this year's NOFA criteria and scoring methodology to develop the draft recommendations that we will present to you today. So before we look into these recommendations, we would like to highlight some of these changes we made this year to the NOFA. These changes affected this funding round. So staff made several updates. Many of these changes were informed by feedback we received from affordable housing developers, along with lessons we learned from previous AHF funding rounds. The goal was to make the application process clearer, improve transparency, and make the best use of the county funding that we had available. So we updated some threshold requirements for projects requesting a smaller pre-development awards with the intention to better support projects that are still in the early stages of development, while allowing larger construction requests to focus on projects that are closer to move to the next stage. So one of the projects that apply elected to do it as a pre-development project instead of requesting a large award. So we also added self-scoring rubric, and applicants could consider this scoring rubric before deciding to apply. So in some cases, projects that we already have in our pipeline decided to wait and apply in a future funding round when they will be in a stronger position to compete with other projects. Another change was how the projects were scored competitively. So this year, we increased the emphasis on leveraging and projects readiness while reducing the number of points we assign to affordability and priority needs. The goal was to give more weight to projects that are ready to move forward and have other secure other funding sources. While the county continue also supporting affordable housing and priority populations. This is in direct response to the reduced county funding. Finally, when possible, HCD staff look for opportunities to recommend a smaller county award if a project could stay on track without affecting its readiness. This allows us to stretch the available funding and we have and support more projects. So you will see this reflected in the draft funding recommendations we will present next. So based on staff's review, we're recommending funding for these 6 projects for a total of approximately $24.3 million. Together, these recommendations will support 459 affordable housing units throughout the county. The draft funding recommendations were developed through a 2-step review process. First, staff confirmed that each application met the threshold requirements to move to the competitive scoring phase. Then the eligible projects were then evaluated using the updated competitive scoring criteria, including project location, readiness, leveraging, affordability, priority needs, and financial feasibility. Staff also review each project funding request and overall financing to determine if the requested funding, county funding, was appropriate or whether the project will still continue to the next stage with a smaller award. Next one. So we'll now present each of the projects, and I'll turn it over to our project presenters to walk us through the individual funding recommendations. So moving into the right.
Oh, sorry, one second. Jan asked me to announce, and I forgot to, that the microphones in here are very, very sensitive. So if as we're going through this, you like whisper something to your neighbor, it might get picked up and be on the recording. So watch yourselves. I wanted to make sure folks knew that. Sorry, go for it.
Question. I was just looking at this, the box files, and there are no files for some of the projects, but files for others. Yeah, the folders and that we got.
Like the one
There were several applicants that have, there's nothing in the file.
in the OneDrive file?
The box.
On the box. And the OneDrive, anyone received the, so, yeah,
I had the same issue as well. This is Jocelyn Manalo. Thank you.
anyone received the, could open the.
I couldn't get it open. And I just tried here, she helped me. I put it in.
Anyone was able to open even the OneDrive link?
I just-
Could help me look at
I
it.
didn't see a one drive, I only got a box.
Okay, yeah, that was the last try that Alicia made.
I only tried it.
I'm able to open the box, but a lot of the.
Are empty, that's what you're saying?
Yeah, there are only files here for 555 Kelly, 105 Mission.
There should be 9.
Medicine Way.
Yeah, there should be.
The other thing is just 0. It's just not.
Oh, so the issue is that, so OneDrive worked fine, but like I live in a OneDrive environment at work. So there are no files in the folders on box for Laurel Landing, Habitat, Ladera, 626 Walnut, and 92 90th Street.
And Rise City.
And you double clicked and there's like legit nothing in there.
And Ridge and Midway.
Oh,
There were
Midway,
only 3 that had files, basically.
yeah, Midway Village Phase 3 and Ridge on Masonic were all missing the files into the actual folder.
So they're listed there.
So people were not able to open OneDrive and the box folders were empty.
Yeah.
Both.
Okay.
So that's really bad and we'll address it after the meeting, but I wonder if we could go ahead.
Absolutely, yes, let's go forward with the presentation.
Yeah,
We might just expect that people have more questions at the next meeting.
yeah.
Accept our apologies, we thought with sending the box to all of us, we will solve the problem, so.
So we're gonna talk about the projects that are recommended for awards and also the ones that aren't recommended for awards. And we will follow up after this meeting and make sure all the people who need it in box actually get it in box. And policy.
Okay, there, as I said, there are 6 projects, staff is recommending for funding this year. So the first project we are presenting is 555 Kelly in Half Moon Bay. I'll invite Eleazar to present 555 Kelly.
Thank you. Hi everyone, Elazar Malabon, HCD specialist, presenting 555 Kelly, located at 555 Kelly Avenue in Half Moon Bay. The total development cost for the project is $48,788,190, and their current ask is for $7,375,000. The project is currently being developed by Mercy Housing California. It is in a high resource area, 40 units in total, 39 of which are rental housing, 1 manager unit. 10 of the units are at 30% AMI, 29 at 50% AMI. All the rental units are for senior farm workers, 2 of which are going to be for senior homeless farm workers. And they are currently, or the project is currently waiting for the Board of Supervisors to approve a 39 county housing voucher program of rental subsidies for this development. This project has site control from the city of Half Moon Bay, and it was approved in May of 2026. The city of Half Moon Bay also committed $3.1 million in funding, 1.1 of which is actually county ARPA funding, 2.1 or 2 million of Senator Becker earmark funds. California State HCD has also committed 16.1 in the Super NOFA award, 13.35 in Joe Cerna farm worker funds, and 2.76 million in infill infrastructure grant awards. If awarded the AHF 14.0 ask, the project will be ready to apply for 9% tax credits in spring of 2027, and construction will begin, if awarded that tax credit award, in December 2027. The key strengths of this project include its population, its location, and that the project already has all the funding commitments from both state and city. However, there are a couple items to consider. Those items include the high cost per square footage and per unit, the high cost of the rental service operating out of all the AHF 14.0 rental applications, and its operating feasibility. In its operating costs and its cash flow, The CHVP expires after year 15. After that year 15, there is going to be a closer, which will be exhausted by year 20. But after that, they have a future rental subsidy that hasn't been identified. And if they are unable to receive any form of rental subsidy in the future post year 20, revenue does drop. And residents would have to pay 30% to 50% in full without any form of subsidy. If they cannot pay that rent, they would have to be transitioned. Recommendation is to fund this project, but at a reduced amount, and this is subject to further terms with the CHPP. The recommendation is for $6,575,000, and this amount came to the including of the $800,000 in fees to ALAS for services. ALAS is Ayudando Latinos Sonar, which is the project that they collaborated with in order to conceptualize the project. But there was a service fee there, and that came from securing public approvals, but we determined that this should actually come from Mercy's debt.
Anyone have questions about this one?
It was determined by, so they have a service fee with ALAS, the organization, and it was like $800,000 in their fees in connection with securing public approvals. And then it was determined that that actual $800,000 should come from the developer. Yeah.
So did you identify why the development cost is so high and the per unit operating costs are so high?
I'm going to defer that reasoning of the cost itself.
Yeah, I can speak to that generally. And our development consultant's also in line, and he can supplement my answer. It's a small project, right? And it has a significant community space for a loss to operate a senior former resource center, which is not eligible for tax credit financing, right? So the costs are generally higher due to the small size of the project and the added cost of incorporating a farm worker resource center. For operating costs, again, smaller projects are going to have higher per unit per annum costs. But even taking that into account, we had concerns about how high their operating costs were. So that's sort of a general response. And our consultant is online, and I wonder if he heard the question, would like to respond. Any further explanation from Tim Bretz, our consultant, on the high cost per unit, both with respect to development and operating?
Hi, Jan. Hi, everyone. I did hear the question. I think your responses sum up the responses accurately. It's a smaller project, so construction costs are just generally higher on a per square foot level. And then again, smaller, higher needs tenant population, so the operating costs are higher.
About eligibility. And so let's say an apartment, because I see some of them are studios, some of them are two. So let's say senior retired farm worker moves in, and clearly there's going to be somebody else living there if it's a two-bedroom apartment. What happens when the actual senior farm worker, let's say, dies or moves away for some reason, and the remaining people don't qualify as retired farm workers?
Yeah, so that's an issue that can occur with other special units targeted to special populations.
That is the problem.
And the developer would propose how they would address that, but usually there is some sort of transition support to enable the household to, so there are no other units at this project, they're all restricted.
Right.
So the household can't move to a different unit. So I would imagine we would work with the developer so that the household had time to find other housing and be transitioned out, because it's a condition of their state funding, as well as their county funding, that these all of the units be targeted to senior farm workers. So, we'll look to the language in the state's Joe Cerna program to see how they're addressing it. But I would imagine that there would be opportunity for Mercy, the owner, to work with those households when that occurs. But the units do need to remain targeted for 55 years to see.
Well, that's, what I wonder if, that it gets bogged down, let's say the actual senior farm worker dies, moves away, and the other people get kicked out, as they should, so that an actual retired farm worker can live there, and that it isn't like they somehow get encrusted and the units end up being not occupied by.
Yeah. Yeah, so typically when you have a highly targeted group like this, it would be in a project where there are other units. But this project is 100% senior farm workers, so it does raise that issue. But I'm sure that the Cerna program, that we'll get guidance on how to address it. I don't know, Ray, did you have anything to add to that?
So yeah, you're right. So there's the farm worker piece, but then there's also the senior piece too. And there's legal case law around having a building that's 100% restricted for seniors to about how long you have to transition that as well. So yeah, there'd actually be a lot of things Mercy would have to follow.
Yeah, because I know it comes up with other things like teacher housing. What if you have a teacher and they leave the profession? Well,
Is this something we could do like a little primer on, maybe at a next more open meeting? Because this comes up when the developers have to come in for their marketing and management plan, which is a later step once they're under construction. But it sort of begs the question, what happens? Tax credit has rules about people their income is too high, and maybe it's just worth educating the committee a little bit about how preferences are even handled through that process. Would that be good? Yeah?
Yeah, because also the interplay with fair housing rules and what's permissible.
Yeah. I think we've got committee member Hedges over here with another question.
So actually, I was wondering why, for example, cemetery has around 7,000 post housing units, with a tremendous amount. Some of them are the 20% or above from the 30. So a lot of normal grade housing built in the line. Why couldn't we, because this is probably fairly verification, like people in those new projects, because we do those based on lot. So you could just say the next development opens up from a new development, we can put you in there if they qualify. So we may have to change the rules, but I think that's not correct. Any comment on that?
I think the specifics of the plan to populate the apartments will be developed by the developer or the management company that runs the apartments themselves. And they know the rules, and they have processes that they use for all of those things.
Well, I met with our housing people in San Mateo on council, and they told me new developments are done on a lottery system. They didn't say it was up to the developer.
Well, I think there are examples of cities putting, preferences on affordable units within their jurisdiction for people who are displaced within the city, which is pretty close and parallel to what you're talking about. I think it would be in some ways and in some cases working with the developer, but it could be, just a city decision to say, I want to have a preference for people in this situation to move into X, Y, and Z building when they've given approval for it.
I see the idea of somebody being.
Yeah.
In the interest of time, do you want to go ahead with your question?
Yeah. I'm sure. Just wondering, what is the IH grant?
Infill infrastructure. It is
Infill infrastructure.
yes, in 2.76 months.
I'm just wondering
But they're
using it.
It's I can speak to that. Do you know the answer? Sorry, Holly. It's a very specific question. So because of the impact on parking, they have funding to create some additional parking they'll be making improvements to an existing parking lot. So it's to address the parking impact of the project.
Which is, I live in Hampton Bay, which is a big deal, because people are hysterical about the parking.
I think my only comment on this is, and I won't be at the next meeting, so that's about how important my comments are. But last night, the city council in Half Moon Bay voted to actually put the lease for this site, i.e. site control, on a November ballot. And so I would feel deeply uncomfortable funding a project that doesn't have site control, and understanding that there are projects that would like funding in this cycle. And so I guess I would caution dedicating this much funding to a project that could potentially be overturned by the voters, and then on top of that litigated for years potentially. That's my concern about this project.
So they do stand with they're being sued by the state over there.
Yeah, it just seemed
So
like a
they-
place, is this the time to put money into a project when there is so much uncertainty and there are other projects with more certainty moving forward?
Now, I would recommend that you put that question in writing, for the public comment period for the next meeting.
Okay.
Just so that
It
we don't
gets
lose
captured.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's say site control.
Well,
That has
as of until last night. And technically, I think they have site control unless overturned by the voters. So there's a question about who really got to decide on the lease, and the city council voted last night to put that on the November ballot. That's at least my understanding of what happened at last night's meeting. Should we move on to the next one?
Our next project is 1051 Mission Affordable. Thank you, Eliazar. Stephen. Present this project.
Hi, everyone. We're presenting 1051 Mission Affordable, South San Francisco. So quick overview. You've seen this project a few times. Since you last saw it, the developer has changed from Bridge Housing to the Related companies. Related will also serve as a property manager, and the owner of the property will be an LLC yet to be formed, the 1051 Mission Road Housing Partners LP. So in most respects, 1051 Mission Affordable is fairly unchanged since prior AHF rounds. It is a new construction rental featuring 158 total units located in South San Francisco, very close to Bart. It includes 40 supportive housing units, all under 30% AMI. That involves 11 studios, 9 one-bedrooms, 11 two-bedrooms, and 9 three-bedrooms. 8 of those units are going to be designated for formerly homeless individuals, and 32 are for households, including families in which at least one resident has an intellectual or development disability. The project was awarded $9,495,307 through AHF 11. They applied for the AHSC award, but after the third unsuccessful attempt at getting that award, Bridge Housing withdrew from the project, and the city of South San Francisco selected Related to replace Bridge. So just some notes on progress. It is already entitled, and most of the funding is already secured. What is still pending is the AHSC award, round 10. They applied for $35 million. The award is expected to be addressed at the end of 2026. The project does currently appear competitive for that award. If they do get it, they would then apply early in 2027 for tax credits and bonds. Planned construction is for November 2027. Just a few key points to keep in mind. Related Companies does have a very strong track record. They've been in affordable housing for 37 years. They've completed about 152 projects, and about 52 of those in the Bay Area. They do have a strong rate of completing projects on time and on budget. It is also very well located. It's extremely close to a transit hub. It's very close to a workstation. It's about half a mile from schools and the hospitals, and about half a mile from a grocery store. Also to note, out of all the projects currently under consideration, 1051 has the lowest development cost per square foot. It also has a very strong project, or is a very strong project in relation to priority needs. All large family units do not exceed 60% AMI. For funding, even though their application to AHSC, that's a tricky acronym, round 10 is pending, again, it does appear very competitive. The city has committed to waive certain fees if necessary, and so staff is recommending to reduce their total AHF 14 ask in relation to that amount. Questions?
Any questions? Or additional funds.
I believe so, is that correct?
Yeah. You mind if I? It's our city. So yes, the city council has already approved a resolution, adopted a resolution that says we'll waive fees after they've applied for this and ASIC, and if there's still a gap, we'll waive these fees. So it's like a pre-approval for that.
Any other questions? No? Okay, next project, thank you, Stephen. Right, the apartments. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Helen Tamishikawa. I'll be presenting on Rice City Apartments. Quick overview. Sandhill is proposing 93 units of affordable housing, just about a block away from downtown Redwood City. Sandhill is developing Rice City Apartments in collaboration with BODE, an organization that will provide public management, supportive services for the development. Bless you. The property was purchased in 2022 from Rise City Church. It is on underutilized vacant land that's across the street from the Rise City Church property. The community proposes 93 units consisting of studios, 1 bedrooms, and 2 bedrooms. Of the 93 units, 24 units will support individuals with intellectual or developmental disabilities, and 5 of those 24 units will be for homeless households that will also overlap with the IDD population. This group of 24 units will be supported by an additional service provider, Housing Choices. And so both communities will provide general supportive services at the property. And then there will be additional support from Housing Choices for the households supporting IDD individuals. A few things to note about this project. The project has had site control since 2022. They've been fully entitled under SB 35 since 2023. We have seen this project come before you all, I think 3 times over the last few AHF rounds. They have not been successful in receiving a funding recommendation. But since the last time we saw their application, I want to highlight some things that have changed. First of all, they've added a nonprofit managing general partner about communities. This is the same group that developed Eucalyptus Grove in Burlingame. And so there is a strong partnership there that we were able to see. They've increased their commitment from the city of Redwood City significantly. The last time they came before us, they had about 4.3 million from the city. Now their commitment from the city is 12 million. So the other thing to note is that the ask of the county has reduced significantly from the last time we saw their application. It went down from 19 million to 9.3 million. So the leveraging of county funds has gone down to 13% now of the total development costs. The other thing I want to note is that for this special, okay, am I done? Okay, so I will lastly note that if they receive this recommendation, they can immediately apply for tax credits in September. So they're very ready. If they're successful, they can move to start construction by next summer. So our recommendation is for 9.4 million. That is their full ask, but it will allow them to move forward to apply for tax credits in September. Any questions?
What funding did they secure or you know, project elements did they reduce that get from a $19 million ask to 9?
Yeah. So I think there are a couple of factors, and Jen, feel free to jump in. I think obviously the big one is the city commitment. Jen, do you want to jump in with some other?
I was just gonna add in addition to the city commitment, we encourage developers to maximize their developer fee while taking only a portion of it in cash, which increases their equity. And they did that and then made a significant general partner equity contribution. So that's feedback we gave them and they took it and it's like, great, yay. So that is an additional factor in addition to the city's support, increased support. And I think, you know, ongoing value engineering in a difficult cost environment.
That's great to see.
Yeah, the development process, right?
Any other questions? Thank you, Helen. Next project is 626 Wall Street in San Carlos. Derek is going to present.
Hello, my name is Derek and I'm presenting on the 626 Walnut Street. This project is going to be located in downtown San Carlos. It's going to be a Mid-Penn Housing Corporation who has a very long established relationship with the county. It is a pre-development project for the housing community in downtown San Carlos, consisting of studios, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom units. Their request is for $3 million, and their total development cost is going to be $1.1 million per unit, which is in the middle ground among all applicants. Some general details about the location of the project. It was given the highest resource area grade with a hospital within 1 mile of the project, and schools, grocery stores, and transportation hubs all within half a mile of the project. And it is currently on vacant land. The units are total up to 95 total units with an average AMI of 48.3%. And the majority of those units will be between 30 to 60% AMI. The target population will be geared towards large family units with 54 total large family units, 28 of them being 2-bedroom, 26 units being 3-bedroom units, and 5 units will be designated for supporting supportive housing units, specifically for the homeless preference threshold. In terms of progress for the project is going to be on county-owned land, and entitlement is pending in 2027. Funding secured so far for the project is the value of that donated land. And the next steps for the AHF award, if awarded, will be to apply for the ASIC and tax credits in 2027 using the new HDFC process. And the construction is planned to start in January 2028. Some key points about the project. It is the only pre-development project amongst all of our applicants, and it was also the only project that was given the highest resource grade location. There are some things to consider. This project doesn't have any city funds, and it is highly dependent on that $30 billion ASIC award. And funding past ASIC round 10, specifically round 11, is still being negotiated through the process. Any questions?
Yeah, well, this is sort of a more general question, not so much about this, but so this is 90.
The pictures don't align. So
No, I don't care about the pictures. 93 units. Okay, so this is 93 units and the development cost.
No, this is
the previous one.
Oh.
Yeah, there's 93 units, development cost 780. And now with 95 and it's 1.1 million. So like what accounts for that discrepancy? I realize land costs may have something to do with it. If the previous project had donated land, but I mean, just Jan, is it?
Well, this is county-owned land. I am not able to speak to what's driving the higher cost per unit of this project. Tim, if you would like to speak to the question, we're looking at the high cost per unit for 626 Walnut Street, comparing it to a very similar project, 94 units, the Rise City project. Can you explain why this? Do you have any insights to help us understand their higher cost per unit?
So one item to look at is the land cost. So Rise City has 5.9 million in land costs, and then 626 Walnut has 8 million. So that's being factored into the total development cost estimates. That's one. I think another one is the total developer fees. And again, we are pushing developers to provide a portion of the developer fee back as general partner equity, which actually increases the amount of tax credits they can get and thus reduces the financial ask of the county. And so Rise City was at a total developer fee of like 7.7 million, and 626 Walnut is at 12 million. So that's another cost differential that's probably inflating or artificially inflating that total development cost per unit estimate.
I'd just add to there's no such thing as a site that's easy to build on in San Mateo County, but the Rise City site, I think the positioning of that site versus the Walnut Street site, well, the Walnut Street site is a postage stamp kind of site with, I think, 4 and 5 story buildings directly on the lot line to either side. So they're going up 8 stories in the proposal, and what they're going to have to do to build that site is going to be really complicated. So I imagine the construction cost is something quite a bit higher.
City, you can go up to San Carlos.
That's
This is San Carlos.
Oh,
this
You can
Rise
do
Cities.
basically whatever you want with state density bonus if it's 100% affordable.
Also, I just want to remind you that it's a great opportunity for you to ask follow-up questions with the developer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you can make notes on questions you want to ask the developers, and you could also make notes on like conditions you'd like to impose on the awards. So,
Does anybody else have questions about this one? I've got a couple, but I happy to let other. What was this before? Did the county acquire this for the purposes of this project, or was this county surplus land?
The first.
I know the land was purchased, I think in 2023 or 2024.
By the county?
By the county, yes. The purpose I will defer to.
For affordable housing, yeah.
And so was the purchase price 8 million?
Correct.
And so you're just passing that on?
What I assume was mentioned there was them showing it in the cost for tax credit basis purposes, but it's
But the source is the donation.
Yeah.
But it is being donated.
It'll be ground leased for like $1 a year.
Okay.
Just like I think Rise City.
Okay, but same arrangement. They're not, okay. So it's not like the county is paying from one department into another. Okay, cool. Who's entitling this? Is it the city entitling it or the county? The city?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great, awesome. I'm gonna remember that when you guys develop something in South City.
They've
And
been really great to work with.
tell Alsa. Okay, I think those are all of my, and are you using a specific entitlement pathway or you're just doing their regular process? Are you using like,
I think they're using SB 35 on
Okay.
this one. Yeah, it's SB 35.
all right, thanks.
No, it'll be fun.
They don't have any.
They don't have any. And
They love
no,
the project and they would if they could, but they don't.
They conditionally committed funding to the project that was supposed to your point earlier, was supposed to come from a biotech. Actually, a number of biotech developments that are on hold.
One thing, since it looks like this is going to be a later round of ASIC, I think there's a bill making its way through the state legislature right now, which will require cities to waive fees or reduce the award of any state funding by the fee amount going to the city. So the cities I think we're at the end of cities being able to charge impact fees on affordable housing if they're going to also need state funding. It looks like it's being well supported in the state legislature, but I think that's notable for this where like the city could just come in and do it now because they're gonna have to in a year or two anyway, and it would be a contribution, might be something to add to the city.
No more questions? Thank you, Terry. Next project is 3051 Edison.
Hello, I'm Doug Frederick. This is the 3051 Edison project. You saw it last year. I think you saw it the year before as well. This is 70 units. They're asking 7.8 million. Total development cost of 58.7 million. It's in a moderate resource area, North Fair Oaks. 70 units at just under 50% average AMI for the entire project. 4 units will be for homeless and 16 will be IDD. The target for homeless is 20% AMI, IDD target is 30% AMI. They own the site already and have for a couple of years now. It's entitled under SB 35. They have had county fees waived for this project, $604,000. And last year got a $1 million award from AHF 13. Next steps, if this is awarded, would be to apply for an MHP in the spring of 2027. They'll apply for 9% tax credit and 28. And if they're successful in those, start construction in December of 2028. As I said a moment ago, it's located in North Fair Oaks. So one of the considerations with that is they have no cities that they're in that would be able to contribute to their funding. So they're kind of leaning on us heavily. They're entitled with fees waived by the county. They need to fully develop a community engagement plan. My impression is they don't really understand what that is at the moment or how to do that. We're kind of lacking at what they presented in their application. So something that they need to work on. And there's limited MHP funding in 2027. We'll probably prioritize projects with existing state commitments. So that funding source is kind of iffy for them. That's it. Any questions?
Questions? You're only recommending
1.5 million.
So can you talk more about that?
They're not very close to go. So there are other projects that are almost ready. So we need to direct scarce resources to those that are closer to being ready to go. Yes. Housing choices is involved in this, yeah. I'm not sure.
I can speak to that. So these units will have a preference for that population. If the developer doesn't receive qualified referrals within a certain period of time, they have the ability to go to the larger wait list. But there is a preference for that population.
I would say that unless they're applying under a tax credit set aside, that then conditions the special needs units. Like we had one project in South City where 50% of the units were IDD, and so it was built into more of their funding sources that was adhered to.
The last project over and in these categories, Habitat Ladera, 120%.
Good afternoon again. So I'll be presenting on Habitat Ladera, their application. The developer for this development is Habitat for Humanity Greater San Francisco. The site location is on 3300 Alpine Road in the town of Portola Valley. This is actually a first-time home ownership development consisting of two single-family units, each with 3 bedrooms. The current ask under this NOFA is $300,000, and the total development cost for the project is just over $2.1 million. And they have a targeted construction start date of June 2027. Just some current items in regards to progress for the development. So Habitat actually entered into a partnership with the Ladera Community Church to utilize the vacant land for affordable housing development. And so they actually entered into a ground lease agreement for 99 years at a rate of $1 annually. Because of this ground lease agreement, the development will actually be seeking Senate Bill 4 eligibility streamlining, which is affordable housing on faith. It's also known as the Affordable Housing on Faith and Higher Education Lands Act, which streamlines the permitting process for 100% affordable housing developments on land owned by religious institutions and independent higher education institutions as well. At present, there is no other committed funding towards the development of this activity. So Habitat noted after this round, or after this AHF round, they'll actually be applying for local funding for a total of $800,000. And they'll also be engaging in continuous fundraising efforts and utilizing mortgage sales towards the development of this activity. A few items to note in regards to considerations. As you all may be familiar, Habitat does have a first-time homeownership program with very favorable terms for the buyer, which includes 0 interest, 0 down payment, and also caps the monthly payments at 30% of the household's income. And under this homeownership model, it's actually successfully concluded to a 0% default rate, in large part to engaging with the buyer with pre and post buying trainings and support. Additionally, this development does present a unique situation to create a home ownership opportunity in a very high resource area. Also, the town of Portola Valley has showed and expressed strong interest in the development, and which ties back to Habitat eventually applying for local funding. And then lastly, this development acts as a model for faith-based development and provides the department to support an opportunity to support this innovative model. That's all the time I have.
Can you remind me of like families, like what's the like do they have to like live there? Like they can't sell the home for some amount of Habitat does that.
Good question for Habitat.
Okay.
I mean, I think Habitat has strong agreements in place where they're able to ensure when the family gets repaid whatever, but the homes are going to be made available by Habitat to a new qualifying family. So they have controls in place to ensure.
It's like they buy it back.
Essentially.
Or manage the resale.
Yeah.
May I ask what's limiting the number of units there? It looks like an awfully large lot.
I can speak to that because I had the same question. So it was originally proposed for 4 units. There's a number of historic trees on the site. And so the city, although this project is eligible for streamlining, Habitat has worked closely with the city and the community and the church. And they're agreeing to preserve those historic trees, which directly reduces the number of units the site can accommodate. So I think that the trees and the for preservation of the trees is, it would have been 4, but it's only 2 because of the trees. And you can also ask Habitat in case I got that wrong.
So it sounds like it's not an ideal spot for building, if that's the land they have.
It's a
Yeah.
city discretionary decision to preserve the trees.
Okay.
That's a
don't
question.
know.
Okay.
I don't know, but I know that they've been designated for protection.
Yeah, by the city.
Yeah. No, and as far as we know, Portola Valley doesn't have a local. And the church doesn't have any preference for churches. So it would be Habitat's, outreach to the larger community. I think that would generate the pool of applicants.
Is Habitat gonna self-perform the construction work, or are they intending to hire GC? It just seems like an awfully high total development cost for wood frame construction on slab foundation.
So maybe we didn't know, but it's modular.
Yeah.
So Habitat is going to organize the development of the modular units.
They have a modular facility in San Francisco where they're building components. Is it coming from there, or is it?
I don't think so, but we'll have to ask Habitat.
I'm just curious what's driving the development costs. Like, is there is there no sewer there? Is there no water there? It just seems very high for
2 modular single family homes.
Correct.
Okay, good question.
Yeah.
We'll make a note to ask Habitat.
Some of their projects in the past are recalled very high.
Yeah.
Development costs.
Yeah, but some of their projects in the past have been like, so I'm pointing at you, Rachel, but I really mean Redwood City. I know you're at San Mateo now, but that project in Redwood City was like, that was gonna be expensive because it's a tiny infill with a podium. You'd expect that when there's huge concrete involved and tiny infill, but this is, you'd think a little bit lower cost.
Questions?
Thank you.
I've gone through the projects that staff is recommending for funding. Next, we'll look to the projects that met threshold requirements, but they're not getting support. These are important projects for the county. And they have existing county awards, and the county remains committed with the projects moving ahead. And even though we lack sufficient funding for the projects to receive additional awards in this AHF 14 round. We'll begin presenting Midway Village Phase 3, Yesenia.
Hello, Midpenn Housing has submitted an application for Midway Village Phase 3, and they're requesting $15.9 million in county Measure K funds to use toward pre-development and construction expenses. Midway Village is a 16-acre site in northeastern Daly City, currently developed with 150 occupied units for low-income families. It has a city park and a child care center. The property is owned by the County Housing Authority, and Midpenn is proposing to redevelop the entire site with a total of 555 units to be built in 4 phases in partnership with the Housing Authority. The current project proposal for Phase 3 is part of the Housing Authority's redevelopment plan at the site. The first phase is complete. The second phase is currently in construction with an anticipated construction completion date of March 2027. Phase 4 is planned as well, in addition to this current Phase 3 or proposed Phase 3. Midway Village, the entire site is fully entitled for a total of 555 units. And the third phase does not require any further discretionary approvals. NEPA approval has already been received. The current proposal for phase 3 is that it would have 145 units for low-income families and relocated Midway Village residents. It would be a large family project and would serve households with incomes ranging from 20 to 60% AMI. 108 apartments are proposed, ranging from studios to 4 bedrooms, and 38 2 to 4 bedroom townhomes are also proposed. A garage with parking for both phase 3 and phase 4 would be. Project has received prior county funding, 1.2 million in AHF 13. It also has secured a 7.5 million garage loan from the Housing Authority, as well as 44 project-based vouchers. The project does not have any current or state or city financing. However, Mid-Penn plans to apply for state MHP financing next year, along with tax credits if the project is awarded AHF 14 funding. While this is an important project for the county, staff is not recommending funding at this time because the project is depending on securing a large MHP award next year, which is a great concern because it appears that the next round of MHP funding will give priority to projects that already have state funding. This timing is necessary in order for the project to retain its current qualified census tract status and start construction by the end of December 2027. Otherwise, the project will need an additional 14 million in funding.
Any questions?
So even though it's the third phase, it's not considered an existing thing. Like, it's not like a piece of a bigger project, the way we explain that. Prioritize project with this existing state award. Like, I imagine the other two phases.
So there's like a master project, but this phase 3, like separate in terms of like fun, like our funding.
Keep thinking, you like that.
Did your due diligence consultant validate that the $15.9 million ask is necessary, or could that potentially be reduced? Not counting the MHP award, which I understand is another 14 million, but your 15.9, is that a real number, or is there?
Yes, Tim, he's up.
Tim,
do you want to answer the question whether the 16 million that's being asked for could that be reduced? Would they benefit from a smaller award?
I mean, in theory, it could be reduced, but I think the bigger concern is that the application relies on I'm looking at my notes here, like 30 million in quote unquote what used to be called HCD funding. And so if they're not even, and what we've heard so far is that with the new state agency, that the first tranche of project awards will go to projects that already have secured HCD funding. This project has not secured HCD funding, so they likely will not be awarded more state funding in the next round of next year. And so at that point, the question becomes like, what's the purpose of giving the county them a smaller award now if we don't think they're going to even be competitive at all for the immediate next round of state funding, which everyone agrees they need state funding? Does that sort of make sense?
yeah, I think my question would be, why would we provide an additional award of 555 weeks, which has a similar level of unpredictability, namely site control? Like, they're both like if 555 Kelly, not weeks. Weeks is 555 Kelly. Like, they're both completely up in the air based on somebody else's control. I think that's what I'm grappling with here. That feels arbitrary. This may be a bigger dollar amount need, and so maybe that's why it falls lower, but I think we should articulate it that the gap is so much bigger, and so even though they're both completely out of everyone's control, it's such a big number, it's not even worth giving them a small amount. But we should articulate a reason for that. Because otherwise it just seems sort of random. Why one and not the other?
Yeah, and I'll just point, there is a column that shows how we ranked the projects based on total scores. So while these key strengths and considerations are very much like we want to elevate, you're thinking about those, the projects were scored and ranked across other elements, including, location, leveraging different factors. So this project, not only does it have a very large MHP award, but it had a lower total score.
For other reasons.
But the issue with it being on a ballot, that just came up yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was all prepared before last night. So what does that do to what you really want to recommend for next week? Because right now you're recommending 7.3 million on a project that may be dead in the water come November.
So I think, for whether it was the 555 Kelly project or this one, if it had scored well enough to end up on the.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying putting it in this, I'm just saying, do we really want to still give us government 6.5 million for Kelly?
Yeah, so I would just say, I think for that project, but really any and all of them too, one of the things for this committee to consider too is whether you want to condition awards on anything in particular.
So maybe let's go through the next two presentations and then we could discuss conditions, maybe, that we might want to suggest. Oh.
Yes, I was online earlier and listening to everything, and I think the question I have for Midway, and I know it's a large amount and ask, does the committee or staff, when there is ask for 15, do you recommend like a lower amount if you're saying it's too high? And I think that's just understanding process.
Yeah, so again, ranking the projects by their scores, we looked at how can we cut the awards so we can give more projects some of the funding, and how do we make cuts that won't, be significantly harmful to the project's timeline. So we did rank them and we did try to make cuts. And when we did all this, then these three projects that you're looking at now, we don't have the funding for these projects. And we're showing you the total score, but we're also elevating some of the specific problems with each project. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, and to your point, our top two scorers actually on the list were neither did we recommend full awards for
Thank you.
even though they're like too high, of course.
Region Masonic?
We don't have any more questions. My last session was thank you, Ksenia. Present Region Masonic.
Thanks, Rocio. The Region Masonic is a new construction, large family rental project located in downtown Belmont. It's just across from the Caltrain station in a high resource area. It includes one unrestricted managers unit and 62 income restricted units with 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms at AMIs ranging from 30% to 70%. With an average affordability of 60%. The project has set aside 4 units for people experiencing homelessness. In terms of progress and readiness, the developer owns the land and the project is already entitled, along with having a relocation plan for the existing small businesses. They have also secured 1.5 million from the city of Belmont, which was an original award of $2 million that was reduced to 1.5 million after they submitted the AHF application. They also have $2 million in home funds from the county's most recent winter NOFA, and an additional 1 million from HF 13. The developer is targeting a 2027 round 1 4% tax credit application with the construction start date of November 2027. The project is next to our previously funded Ridge at Ralston, which is expected to start construction in September. It is in a high resource area with access to public transit and other amenities. The overall development cost per unit is on the lower side at $884,000. However, the project is not ranked sufficiently high to receive the request of $5 million from this round because its average affordability is on the high side at 60% AMI. While this project has large family units, only 16 of the 2 and 3 bedrooms are at or below 60% AMI. And although it has the advantage of being in the high resource areas in competing for tax credits, its need for state tax credits and the competition in geographic regional pool makes the project overall less competitive for tax credits compared to some of the other applications. Thank you.
Any questions?
Okay. So it's not recommended for award because the tax, you don't believe it will be competitive for state tax credits. It's on the bubble, it's definitely not competitive, it's.
Can I speak to that?
Yes.
So again, going back to my earlier point, the projects get points across multiple factors. And this is in a high resource area, so it got good points for that. But in several other factors, it scored lower. So it has pretty high average AMI. It didn't get points for the priority needs unit types. It didn't get a lot of leveraging points. It lost points in multiple categories. But what we're trying to do is not talk about points, but talk about some of the underlying factors that contribute to that. So we are concerned about the competitiveness for tax credits. They have their application would include state tax credits, and their tiebreaker is good, but not all that great. So that is one factor in terms of readiness, but there are other factors.
So was like their tiebreaker funded in the past few rounds or not funded in the past few rounds?
They were not funded in the last, this project applied for tax credits.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, and they were not funded.
But this would reduce their total amount, right, if we gave them more money?
If we gave them more money, it would reduce their total amount, but they still have a state tax credit need. So, yeah. Not an easy decision. This developer we've worked with, and they're very great to work with, and they're developing some important housing adjacent to this. But it's just when we got down the list, this is where they landed, and we didn't have enough money to give them on board.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Manasa. Next project is, the last one in this category is Laurel Landing. Karen will present this project.
So you all have seen this project various times. It used to be called Pierce Road, so now it's Ladera Landing. It's out in Menlo Park on Pierce Road. They applied for AHF 13. We awarded them $1 million. They applied to the winter NOFA just this past December, but we deemed them as not quite ready, so they weren't funded in that round. So it's an 8-unit first-time home ownership project with an average AMI of about 71%. So just last week, actually, they received Planning Commission approval, so that's exciting. And there's also possible support for a city fee reduction. The fees are about $900,000, $944,000, and there's talk of maybe going to the board and requesting about $200,000 decrease in those. The Habitat projects, I feel like they have just great home ownership terms. This one's no different. So 0 interest mortgage, 0 closing costs, 0 down payment. They did report, I know we asked, there was a question before about their foreclosure rate. So they say it's 0 at present, that they work really closely with the owners of the units to try to figure out any delinquencies and prevent foreclosures. On the downside, they have the highest per unit cost of all 10 applicants at about 1.4 million. So that was something that came up when we talked about last time. The next highest is Kelly at 1.2. It's a few around 1.1. And then the lowest is around 773 for some of the larger projects. They also have some challenges with fundraising. So they do have strong city support. They're awarded a Cal Home grant of $2 million, but they're still short about $5 million. And that's about 45% of what they're seeking. They just recently learned they didn't receive the affordable housing program loan for about $500,000. But in that round, it seems like nobody received, no first-time home ownership projects received funding. So it seemed more like it was a change in or difference in strategy for this particular round. So all in all, I think it's an exciting project. We have definitely supported in the past, but there are just some questions right now about readiness and financial feasibility that put them lower on the list.
So we've got Habitat on the line. We also have the last applicant on the line. So why don't we do we want to do Habitat first?
I think you should wait till the next meeting when all of the developers.
Well,
we did tell Habitat that we would do public comment.
Yeah, should we just go through all the applications and then open?
This is the last.
This is the last one.
Oh, sorry.
No, there's the one that you want.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought this.
Oh, there's the one that didn't meet threshold. Okay, so we'll get questions about this and then we'll do the last one and then open up the public comment. Okay.
This has higher per unit cost than one or two, development, so maybe questions that it's all important. That really not what's apparently for that cost is that cost actually remarkably high given the product type.
Well,
yeah,
the size of the project is a factor, right? But whether it's home ownership or rental, these are like these are townhome type. So it can have an effect, but the fact that it's first time home ownership versus rental is less determinative of costs than, the basic site and the basic construction and design. Does that help?
Yeah, but they did have some, apparently maybe we'll speak to this, but apparently there's a driveway easement that takes up a bit of the lot, so it makes the construction kind of awkward. But like to your point is, it's that they're 2-3-story units versus a 10-story or 8-story complex. They also have the city has some material standards and things that increased it, but they just seem, they're smaller, so they do seem to be on the higher end.
The cheapest per unit are the high density units. But there are smaller projects that don't have costs.
Yeah.
This seems.
And they can speak, we had them on and yeah, but that's what some of the things they did say was that's the driveway easement really is complicating things. But that's something that this came up, we talked a lot about this in the last meeting as well, the per unit cost.
Any other questions about this one?
Thank you.
We'll discuss now in the United States. This project is not meet threshold requirements established in this year NOFA. Gina, I'll turn over to you. Thank you. The short
So this is the final project is 92 90th Street in Daly City, proposed by Vea Development. The applicant requested 11.4 million in AHF 14 funding toward a total development cost of approximately 140.5 million. The proposed project is an 18-story building located on 0.29 acre parcel in a high resource area near Daly City City Hall, and would provide 132 affordable housing units at an average of 50% of AMI. The mix of the units is on the PowerPoint. The project would also provide 7 units for people experiencing homelessness using Mental Health Service Act funding. It is proposed as a large family project with 48 2-bedroom units and 33 3-bedroom units. The applicant has acquired the land and entitlement under AB 2011 is pending. So no other funding for this project has been secured as of yet. If awarded AHF 14 funding, the developer proposes to apply for approximately 32 million in round 11 of the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Program in a coordinated application for MIP funding and the 4% tax credit in spring 2027. Construction is to begin in July 2028. The staff recommendation for this project did not meet staff determined that this project did not meet threshold requirements. The primary threshold barrier was the lack of city or other third-party commitments and the minimum amount of $1 million. We also had questions about the developer's emerging developer status. The proposal to provide no parking for 132 units. And the effect of an 18-story design on construction standards and costs. And finally, the financing plan is also highly dependent on a future ASIC award, while the availability of ASIC funding for round 11 remain uncertain. And I will defer to Jan or Tim for any questions. Any questions?
Any questions?
As a frequent visitor to Daly City. Where I live in, yeah, it's the 18 stories, sorry if I don't understand certain words here, but like, has that been approved, that design? Like, is that just trying to imagine each 18-story building right in that neighborhood?
They're clearly availing themselves of entitlement pathways that the state has allowed, but that leads to my question, which is, why are we commenting on the parking? Presumably that's something that they would use state density bonus.
Yeah. I think it's, I think that's a valid point. We just wanted to point it out. It's a concern. But I think the most straightforward reason why the project did not meet threshold is they have no kind of third-party funding commitment and a minimum threshold requirement. It doesn't have to be city, it can be other sources, but they don't have.
Very good to see you. So, most of this project and help because there's no minimum parking requirements, stay 1.5 mile. A bus and the El Camino bus qualifies. So very close to park. Okay, that explains that. Unfortunately, if you have a high cost of land, you're doing a building that high, that's concrete and steel. And the cost goes up a great deal. The amount of units helps on the cost, but it didn't do enough.
Any more questions? Thanks so much. Thank you, Gina. We have now reviewed all the projects, so I'll turn it over to Mel to facilitate the discussion.
So are there any overarching conditions or I guess conditions really that we want to have staff? Oh, sorry, public comment. We should take the public comment. Sorry, geez. I'm hiding the video. The pictures on Zoom makes it hard to remember there are other people joining us. Sorry.
The people who are joining online can raise their hand, correct? So we know that they want to make a public comment.
Would you like to announce the first public comment?
Sure. The outstanding public comment from
With Habitat.
with that.
Doug, do you want to hop on and make your public comment?
Howdy, y'all. So my name is Doug Fowler. I'm the Director of Real Estate with Habitat for Humanity, Greater San Francisco. Here to just kind of speak a little bit to the Laurel Landing project. If you can go back to that slide, that'd be great. If not, I get it. As a reminder, Habitat is different. We are a homeownership developer. So we develop, build, and sell affordable homeownership opportunities, selling them to low-income families. This site is unique. This was actually first owned, and I'm going to speak to cost here a little bit, first owned by MidPenn. They explored building rental units in this neighborhood, and they received really strong feedback from the Bellhaven community, which is a historically underserved community in Menlo Park, that they wanted affordable home ownership. So Mid-Penn started exploring that, ended up with the city, ended up with us. So the city committed, their part of their $3.6 million commitment was for us to purchase the site. Now, typically Habitat tries to keep our land costs at zero, right? But this was a great opportunity for us to build in a neighborhood that we have a longstanding tradition of doing repairs and other homeownership options, other homeownership products in. So part of the large cost of this project is the purchase of the land. If you exclude the land, our cost is just over $1 million a door, which is very competitive to the other projects here. I do want to highlight that we are different in other ways, that we build our project with volunteers. So that does save us money in some of the labor, but also cost us money in managing that process. So it is speaking to kind of our overall budgets. That is a reality. Is building with volunteers takes time and it is expensive, but it does help us save some labor costs. And then 3 is this site could take more, right? I think we could have made a model with 15 or 20 units, but we really wanted to stay true to our mission and listen to the community who wanted family-sized homeownership units. So these are 2, 3s, and 4s, 8 units. We explored going up to 15, but we really wanted to right-size this development to the neighborhood and to the community, and we think we've done that. A couple more notes. One, I think county staff are aware. We started this project with a written commitment from the Stanford Affordable Housing Fund. That commitment was for $1.5 million. That money was supposed to flow from Santa Clara County to San Mateo County for this specific project. Santa Clara County took that commitment back. And so this application for this round of funding was discussed with staff and was really just intended to help backfill part of those funds and maintain project viability. So that's the reason for this application. And then last, I do want to note, as an affordable housing developer, our model is different, right? Our sources are different, and a lot of our money comes in at the sale. So we have committed in this project nearly 40% of the funding stack in our own dollars. That's a mixture of both private donations, which was noted here, and mortgage sales revenue, right? This is unique. It comes in at the end. We have received $250,000 in a private commitment already. And as we've noted in our application, majority of our fundraising dollars typically comes in during the course of construction, while we have volunteers engaged on site. That is a reality of kind of how our funding model works. We have a 35-year history in raising money to build homes. And I know the county is aware, we have a long history in San Mateo County, including recently completed Geneva Village and the 612 Jefferson projects. So I'm just here to vouch for homeownership too, right? Of all the dollars committed in this recommendation, 1% is for homeownership. And just to remind people on the call, like we have a large pipeline, we want to build more homes and we need community support to do so. So I'm happy to answer any other specific questions. So thank you.
And did the other developer drop off? They left, or are they still there? We want.
I've always asked for public comment. That's all.
Okay.
Can we make one last?
What is there? What's that?
CRP.
CRP affordable if you're still on and would like to
put
make
a comment in the chat.
Oh, would you like to read it?
On behalf of CRP Affordable Housing, thank you for your consideration for our Ridge Masonic application. We look forward to future partnerships and bringing more affordable housing to San Mateo County. And best of luck to the awarded projects.
Oh, nice. Very diplomatic of that. Anybody have feelings about conditions to place on any of these awards, or questions or requests for staff coming back at the public hearing next week?
Well, I think we have to put conditions on the calendar because it could blow up in November. But I don't know what the correct approach is for that.
Would a condition that says if it's a no vote in November or they lose site control, that the funding immediately reverts? And will staff be doing the over-the-counter NOFA in the winter if you have funding like that?
I think we've thought that far down the line, but we do have our standard winter NOFA.
Typically, when we recover Measure K, we put it into the next available NOFA. not in the under NOFA, which is federal funds, but we could do that.
Yeah, because of the timing of some of those state applications, we may want to consider that. We would definitely strategize with our.
It's just such a good chunk of change.
Yeah. What if you go to something?
Right.
I mean, hopefully we have questions.
We did it on the counter, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
29. And the record. There's.
I mean. The MHSA is not I guess did staff speak to why the 5 million in MHSA is not being recommended?
So no project that's on these lists here applied for MHSA. MHSA is to serve a very specific population. And so so it was on the table, but they didn't apply. The 9290th did ask for MHSA, but they didn't meet threshold.
And you couldn't have given that money to somebody else.
And
we will do some outreach with our partners over the coming month.
Find somebody who qualifies.
This last project, can you, Karen, I think it was you presented it, Laurel, like listening to what you said about the Santa Clara money being revoked and they seem like closer to being ready, right? Construction start July 2027. Like, remind me again why they scored so low, or like, because it is only 700,000 too. So
yeah, so the scoring is a factor of location. They're in a low resource area and not within a half a mile of a high quality transit. In terms of priority needs, while they have large family units, we do require that at least half of those units be targeted at 60% AMI or lower. So that affected their score. In terms of leveraging, obviously if they are successful with all their fundraising, their leveraging is okay, but their readiness to start construction on the date that they announced is very dependent on the success of their fundraising. And they've explained that they don't have those fundraising commitments now. So because of the size of the uncommitted funding, that also affected their score. So part of this, I think over the years, we've tried to adjust our home ownership, our NOFA and modify it to better work for home ownership. And that said, a Habitat has some very specific ways of doing things that don't line up as well. When you think about points for readiness, when they have such a huge percentage of their total budget dependent on fundraising that's going to happen later, that also affected their score. So part of it is the homeownership funding model that Habitat implements. Part of it is location, affordability, those things. So no single factor.
are there any rules about, and I know we're not deciding today, but I'm just imagining like, so let's say next week we recommend Kelly goes forward with conditions, but then in November it falls apart. Like, can we pre-decide at next week's meeting to like, hey, that 6 million goes, we relook in priority order, look at the 700,000 requests, see where they are, like, or because we skipped to, can you do that? Like, because this is the lowest scoring one, like, kind of some rules around that, or that's sort of what I was thinking.
I would highly recommend funding the 5 million from the higher. I mean, it seems like the only issue with the other project in Belmont is just that it's higher income. It's still desperately needed affordable housing, and it seems much more.
The ridge,
It seems much more ready and I mean, unless I'm missing something huge, It's just it could apply for tax credits as early as the first round in 27. But there is the issue of whether or not it is highly competitive for the state tax credit. So that's the big question there, right? I mean, I would recommend both of those, honestly, right now over 555 Kelly. But if, you know, there's a commitment to 555 Kelly and that the voters say no in November, does it flow to a couple other projects, or do we just leave it to staff to decide? I think it's been the standard practice, right? When the money is clawed back and it goes into that.
When the money's clawed back, we typically put it into another NOFA. We don't maintain like a wait list that's okay, if this is clawed back, it'll go here. And I think that has some advantages, but on the other hand, the facts and the environment, the funding environment we're in, everything is in motion, right? And so if you don't look at a project at that new moment in time, then, you know, that can be a problem. So we haven't created like a wait list for projects to get awards from recovered funding. Rather, we've put it into the next NOFA or done an over the counter. We have the ability under HF 14 to do an over the counter NOFA, like with unawarded or recovered funds. So we always have that option, but again, we would publicize it and everybody would come in with current information at that time.
And those are only projects that have applied before, right? That's the limiting factor. So we've seen them, we've talked about them.
That's what Rose reminded me. We did that in HF 12. I think it was right where, we did an over the counter NOFA that was just for projects that had gone through this process with the committee and the board. Actually, too.
So if we did an over the counter, either of these could come back with.
And say where they are at that point.
They raised funding, they raised the money, and Red could come back and say, figuring out they've gotten closer to the step, the threshold for the tax credits. And give the money now. Because these are things that we want to fund, they just don't look like that for various reasons, so.
That's what do we need to talk about what you want us to do for next.
For the next, so if it seems like, if I'm hearing the committee correctly, that what we want to recommend to staff is a condition on 555 Kelly. So
Yeah, if we get that money, if they get voted out in November, so it ends up not happening, so we get take that money back, that we maybe do it over the counter. Give the current rejected ones a chance to come back with updates.
do we need a proper vote on this, or can we say, note your objections now?
Of course. I don't think you need to vote, we're just asking
Yes.
for your, I don't know that you need to vote, you can vote next week.
Next week, not me, but that's okay. But that's all right to let you know about that
Yeah.
condition now.
And questions the developers will be, the 7 that are recommended for awards are required to be here to present their projects. Are there questions that you want us to ask the developers to address? That would be also useful. So we can tee up their presentations so that they're more tailored to your concerns. And and then these 3 projects that are not being recommended, do you want us to ask them to come and present? Because we weren't planning to, but if you want to hear from them directly, we could also make that happen.
I don't know that we want to do that because it's all depends on the election in November, so.
Okay.
You know, if we probably want Kelly to comment on the current status.
Yeah.
But they're coming anyway.
Okay.
But the others are dependent on something bad happening to somebody else. So I don't know that we want to call them in here to talk to us under those conditions.
I think Habitat will be here anyway,
They'll
right?
be
Because they've
here,
got
they'll be
one,
here
so,
for the,
and they'll both be here. Well, not, everybody will be here because, wait, isn't Ridge and Masonic? Oh, no, they're not recommended. They've already got funding.
Right.
Okay. So really, it's just up to CRDC. They could always show up of their own accord, but we're saying you don't have to be here.
Right, because we're not gonna make any decisions for them next week. It's just that if things go south for Kelly, it might work out for them.
Any other closing remarks about the presentations or the material? One. I've got one thing, which is thank you so much to staff for putting in points. This is new. We're back to points and showing the points.
Yes.
And I know it wasn't the first choice, and I'm really grateful for it because I think it does lend some transparency to the process. So thank you a ton to staff for making that happen. And then what I'm gonna put in a request if we could maybe consider learning about this in the future, or maybe I'll just as a staff member bug county staff, but in going through these, you know, year after year, it feels like there is a growing delta on the per unit cost between for-profit affordable developers and nonprofit affordable developers. And that maybe that's not accurate, but it feels like we're seeing all of the $1 million and above are on the nonprofit developer, and the below $1 million per unit tends to be on the for-profit affordable developers. And I wonder what's driving that cost, because you'd think it would be the inverse. And so I would love more exploration there, and it's something that you know I'm thinking about in my work. And I just wanted to note it because it seems to be. I could be totally wrong. It feels
counterintuitive.
Yeah, it feels counterintuitive.
Yeah. I can tell you what I've been told.
Yeah.
That's a question. The for-profit developers will reply, we have affiliated GCs.
Yes.
And we are much better in a position to like control costs than the nonprofits who have to go out and do competitive bidding and then manage those third parties. So they would say the affiliated GC is a positive factor in controlling costs. I don't know if it's true.
Yeah, but then why are then why don't the nonprofits get to do the same thing? You know, it's because they're just passing the cost on to the public agencies, and we're in a very, very cost constrained environment. Yeah, I mean that's my only comments. Thanks so much. Is that it? Is that all you need from us?
I guess we need to follow up with you on the box debacle. And again, our apologies. I would just say if you have any further thoughts as you drive home and you have questions, or between now really and next week, questions that you want the applicants to address, please email us and we'll forward those questions to them.
Where are you with quorum next week? I'm supposed to be on vacation, but I could join remotely from a school or something, but if I don't have to.
Yes, it does.
No, now we can do remote, right?
Yeah, they do remote, yeah.
This just changes that we have. Do you want to read who's committed for next week?
So except
No, Laura won't be
here. Nell and Laura.
Can I not be here?
You have quorum without Laura.
Yes. If like.
If it changes.
Is there anyone else who's not planning to be here?
I just wanted to call that out.
Yeah, no, thanks.
All right. Yeah. So are we adjourning? We're adjourning this meeting, and the next meeting is on Wednesday, the 29th.
Yeah.
Same place. Thanks so much. Oh. It's really unsatisfying. Yeah. It's not loud enough. Oh.